Between 1947 and 1987, Willowbrook State School housed over 6,000 children with intellectual disabilities in facilities designed for just 4,000. But behind the overcrowding statistics lies a more chilling number. Approximately 12,000 residents died here in just 3 decades, many under mysterious circumstances. Today, we're focusing on just one of these lost children, a boy named Thomas, who disappeared from Ward 16 in 1956. Using both historical investigation and modern paranormal research methods, we'll explore whether his unsolved case might explain why visitors and investigators continue to report encountering a child's presence, begging for help in this abandoned building. Ward 16 stood as one of the most overcrowded sections of Willowbrook State School. The rectangular ward measured 60 by 30 feet and housed 45 children in beds spaced less than 2 feet apart. Yellowed floor plans show communal toilets at the far end, with rust stains still visible in archived photographs. The windowless space had just 4 staff members per shift, none trained in childcare, responsible for children with severe developmental disabilities. Former attendants described finding soiled mattresses unchanged for days, and residents left in wet clothing for hours at a time. Thomas vanished from this ward on September 12, 1956, during the 3 p.m. shift change, when staffing dropped to just 2 employees. His records marked him as transferred to another facility, but subsequent investigations uncovered no transfer paperwork. Missing child reports reveal this wasn't an isolated case. Between 1950 and 1960, 12 children disappeared from Willowbrook under similar circumstances, all listed as transfers or elopements without follow-up documentation. Nurse Evelyn Carter testified in 1975 hearings that staff frequently marked unsupervised children as temporarily misplaced when they went missing for hours, sometimes permanently. The Hepatitis Experiments introduced another layer of systematic abuse on Ward 16. Records show doctors deliberately infected 57 children with the virus between 1955 and 1962 under the guise of medical progress. Researchers selected nonverbal children, those least likely to protest, dividing them into control groups and test subjects. Parents later recalled signing vague consent forms they believed guaranteed better treatment for their children. Dr. Maurice Hilleman later condemned these trials as the most unethical medical experiments ever performed on children in the United States. A 1957 internal memo flagged recurring patient location discrepancies across Ward 16, noting 5 unresolved cases in that year alone. The administration stamped these reports with "no corrective action required" and filed them in a restricted access cabinet. Investigators later found this same filing cabinet during the 1972 expose. Its contents included photographs of malnourished children alongside handwritten dosage charts for experimental drugs. In 2018, a paranormal investigation team entered Ward 16 with specialized equipment to document potential activity. Their EMF detectors registered erratic spikes near the former sleeping quarters, with readings jumping from 0.5 milligus to 12 milligus without identifiable electrical sources. Thermal cameras captured a persistent cold spot measuring 52 degrees Fahrenheit in the southwest corner, 15 degrees colder than the surrounding area, despite no drafts or ventilation issues in the sealed room. During their audio sweep, The team recorded 7 minutes of white noise that later revealed a faint voice saying, "Help me," at the 4:23 mark. The voice showed characteristics of a prepubescent male when analyzed through audio enhancement software. Forensic audio analyst Mark Renshaw examined the recording using industry-standard tools like Adobe Audition and Isotope RX. His report noted the voice contained no background hiss or artifacts suggesting digital manipulation. The waveform displayed natural speech patterns rather than clipped or spliced audio. However, Dr. Ellen Park, a cognitive psychologist at Columbia University, argues such recordings often result from pareidolia, the brain's tendency to find meaningful patterns in random noise. She points to a 2019 study where 78% of participants interpreted static as human speech when primed with emotional context about tragic locations. On June 14, 2020, urban explorer Daniel Cho reported seeing a shadow figure near Ward 16's shower area during a daylight visit. His description matched Thomas's physical profile from intake records, approximately 4 feet 2 inches, with a slight limp from untreated scoliosis. Cho's thermal camera showed a brief temperature drop of 8 degrees Fahrenheit at the sighting location, though no visible obstruction caused the anomaly. Security footage from another team that same month captured an IV stand rolling 3 feet across an empty hallway before stopping abruptly. Maintenance records confirm the wheels on these stands required 11 pounds of force to move due to rusted joints. Dr. Naomi Castillo's research on trauma imprints suggests prolonged suffering can create emotional resonance in physical spaces. Her 2021 study of former asylums found that 63% of reported paranormal incidents occurred in areas with documented abuse cases. At Willowbrook, these hotspots correlate with locations mentioned in neglect reports, particularly the shower room, where staff left children unattended for hours. Castillo notes the human brain may subconsciously detect residual stress hormones or infrasound vibrations from these areas, interpreting them as supernatural phenomena. The 2018 EVP recordings underwent additional analysis at the Fordham University Audio Forensics Lab. Technicians isolated the vocal fragment using spectral analysis, confirming it contained formants consistent with human vocal cords rather than environmental noise. When compared to Thomas's rare pre-admission home recording, preserved by his sister, both samples shared similar pitch contours in the 280 to 320 Hz range. The team also discovered a second, previously unnoticed whisper at the 6:17 mark saying, "Don't tell," recorded simultaneously with another EMF spike. Willowbrook's administration maintained lax procedures for handling missing residents. Patient files classified disappearances as transfers or elopements, regardless of evidence. Paperwork often lacked destination facility details or confirmation of arrival. Nurses described being instructed to sign pre-filled transfer forms, even when they hadn't witnessed a child leaving the ward. One 1958 memo directed staff to list bed vacancies as voluntary discharges, unless families formally complained. These practices created a bureaucratic fog that obscured the true number of missing children. A 1962 audit by the New York Department of Mental Hygiene revealed critical flaws in record-keeping. 30% of active patient files contained missing or incomplete documentation. 12% of cases showed contradictory information between medical charts and administrative logs. The audit discovered 17 instances where children appeared on meal rosters but weren't present in daily headcounts. Senior Administrator Roland Keene later admitted in court testimony that staff treated record discrepancies as clerical errors rather than potential endangerment cases. Former attendant Joseph Lowell confessed in a 1976 deposition to falsifying logbooks. "We'd mark nonverbal kids as present during inspections, even if we hadn't seen them all day," he stated. Lowell described a system where nighttime staff would initial morning checklists without verification to save time. Maintenance worker Edwin Torres recalled discovering a locked storage room in 1969 containing shredded documents labeled "Patient Whereabouts Audits." These revelations aligned with the 1975 Willowbrook consent judgment findings, which cited chronic and willful negligence in resident tracking. The consent judgment exposed systemic failures across 8 categories of care. Investigators documented 212 instances of improper record alteration between 1960 and 1975. Required weekly medical evaluations for ward. 16 residents showed 89% compliance on paper, yet nurses' notes revealed only 32% actually received examinations. Crucially, the judgment forced Willowbrook to implement real-time bed checks conducted by 2 staff members simultaneously. This reform came too late for Thomas and others who vanished during the unchecked years. A 1984 land survey for proposed redevelopment uncovered disturbing finds near the eastern property line. Ground-penetrating radar detected 12 unmarked pits, consistent with human burials between 6 and 8 feet deep. No interment permits existed for these locations. Forensic archaeologists noted the graves lacked coffins or identifying markers beyond rusted patient ID numbers on a few metal tags. Although statute limitations prevented criminal charges, the discovery validated former residents' claims about nighttime burial crews removing bodies from the morgue. Thomas's disappearance remains an open wound in Willowbrook's history, one of many cases where bureaucratic neglect erased a child's existence. His story now represents the thousands who suffered in silence under this system. If you want to honor their memory, consider supporting the Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund, which fights for protections Willowbrook's residents never had. Their work ensures no facility can repeat these abuses unchecked. The unmarked graves and shredded records prove institutions can't be trusted to police themselves. Real change requires public pressure, the kind that finally shut Willowbrook down. What happened here wasn't just history, it was a warning.